Well, we were speaking a minute ago about the digital identity and whether or not that's a good idea, the idea that you could have one single point of ID across all government services and potentially beyond. So that's our jumping off point for tonight's Taking Stock. Shane Oliver, Chief Economist at AMP Capital, and the Squiz founder, Claire Kimball, join us in the studio. Claire, what do you reckon? Is it a bit weird? Is it a bit Big Brother, or is it okay?
I just think Australia card, and I'm so much younger, you know, that I can remember little bits of that, but I don't think you have to look further than the health record to see that governments aren't really great at selling this kind of stuff and instilling senses of confidence in managing this kind of data. But the fact is, the government has everything on us. Do we need another number? I'm not quite sure. I thought a tax number would be good, passport number. I mean, there's so many numbers already. But
and then just put it all in the one space under that number.
Yeah.
But it is that security risk that people seem very alarmed about. Yeah, I think that my health record fail is there up in bright lights so recently, but the Australia card as well.
These things are great in theory to have all this information in one spot, and it will be able to speed things up. But I do worry about the Big Brother effect, that they're tracking us, that they can, you know, this China social credit system that maybe someone with a weird point of view in government can get the idea, will rate individuals in terms of whether they're doing good things or bad things. And so those things scare me a little bit. Oddly enough, I do worry about Australians because, believe it or not, they're allowing all this sort of data to pop up there anyway. Their credit card spending will be shared with everybody, with the banks. Everything you do online can be tracked. So a lot of Australians are effectively sharing this sort of information anyway. But net, I'm against it. I don't like any form of Australia card. All these sorts of things are, I think, associated with Big Brother and 1984 and all those sorts of terrible things.
And it's funny, isn't it, Shane? Because there is so much data that we put online just free and willingly. Credit card details, like actually money coming out of your account if it all goes wrong. But there's something about government managing this sort of stuff that we just naturally...
I find really scary. Now, to be honest, I would trust the current government, but things can change. You know, look at the way some parts of the world have gone with somewhat extremist leaders. You know, the Philippines, Turkey and so on are just examples. You could say that Trump is a moderate form of that. You could say that Jair Bolsonaro down in Brazil might have those sorts of tendencies. And I think we've already done, like you take the terrorist threat. Many years ago, there was a terrorist threat. The government passed various laws. That's enabled them to lock people up. You know, that Sri Lankan guy who came, a student, charged with doing something or other, and then of course it was the police had to drop the charges and he was let go with no compensation, as far as I know.
We've kind of seen enough, basically.
I don't like that.
Particularly too, I think one of the big stories of the year, and probably the last 18 months or so that we haven't paid enough attention to, are our spy agencies saying there are people in our systems, they are targeting us, they are trying to get through. It's happening, but we haven't the penny hasn't really dropped on that properly, I don't think.
Yeah, I suppose that's kind of reflected as well in the kind of the survey that they've put out with this, which is that 60% of people are indifferent, providing that it actually works. So that's kind of a big thing, isn't it?
That's a big asterisk next to that.
So hopeless. Claire?
It's just hard. This stuff is really, really hard. And
that's a poor excuse.
Well, but the thing is, I think
these people on very good salaries to work it out, right?
Yeah, and they spend a lot of money with getting contracts and things right. But the consequences are just so much bigger. I mean, in a business, unless it's a really big business, something goes wrong and it's, you know, a few 100,000 people affected. Something goes wrong in a system like this and it's millions of records. It's a really difficult thing to get right.
Look what's happened at Facebook. You know, lots of stuff gets shared around. They may not have intentionally meant to do that, but someone was able to do it and it happened. The same, I guarantee, would happen here. So the intention may not be there to do it, but someone could sneak in and do it.
So you just don't know what's next. You open the door to these things and then who knows. Another interesting thing that came across our desk today and we were keen to talk about was this new report that 86% of millennials, quote, treat themselves, which has become a bit of a thing after Parks and Recreation made it so, for those playing at home who may be a watcher of that show too. So that's at least once a month, them treating themselves, you know, splurging on something that means something to them, but only at a cost of $100 a month. So perhaps we've all been wrong all along about millennials. Claire, what do you think? Are they more frugal than we thought?
we're not wrong. We're not wrong. I reckon their definition of what a treat is is probably very different to older generations. I think they might see, you know, the haircut and the full dye job as a necessary thing, whereas other generations might see that as a bit of a treat. I think treat is probably a very specific category for millennials.
Wants are suddenly needs, perhaps.
Correct. Exactly.
That survey, though, does show that they're actually pretty good at saving.
Yeah.
Millennials are conscious of the need to save. I have a feeling two things have happened here, and it partly relates to what we were talking about last time I was on the show last week, that as time goes by, expectations have risen faster than reality. And so millennials think that they can get all these things a lot faster. The first overseas holiday I had, I think I might have mentioned at the time, was to Norfolk Island and in DC4. And my parents saved for years. This was a long time ago now. DC4s don't even go there anymore, so it's jet plane. But whereas my kids have had multiple jet plane trips all around the world, and when you have a gap year, I couldn't afford a gap year, whereas now it's quite common. And when you have that gap year, you go travelling around the world. So a lot of these things that would occur in my generation, by the time you're 28 or 29. Younger people want them to occur earlier. So there is an expectation above reality thing. But I think by the same token, there's always been young people, whether young baby boomers, young Generation X, always want to splurge a little bit. You want the here and now because you think you're going to live forever. So you don't have, there's plenty of time to save up for the house. To be honest, I didn't start saving up for a home until I was about 30 or 29.
Oh, really?
29, 30.
You see, the young people would say, yeah, it was so cheap to buy a house back then, right? That's
like 5 years ago you started saving.
And if I'm right, we'll go back towards that anyway as prices come down.
Yes, if your forecast is right. Yes, exactly.
But I think we sometimes give millennials a bit too hard a time. But I reckon we all suffer from this thing that as we get wealthier and wealthier and income levels go up, that our expectations rise above it.
And 27 years of economic growth, which we keep on saying, reminding ourselves that we're just going fabulously, probably doesn't help.
It doesn't help at all. I mean, I know a lot of people who say Australia needs a good old recession to teach us tough times.
And look, they deserve a hard time. They're young and beautiful, so they can deal with it.
Speaking of, we just had an interview with the founder of Spriggy, which is one of these, it's basically a digital pocket money app. Which is a concept we found really interesting. What do you think are the best ways to teach kids about money, Shane?
There are some merits to this. I do worry that there's an element of spying on the kids. My daughter
by the parents?
By the parents. For some reason, my daughter agreed, and she's 20 now. When she was 19, she agreed to allow that tracking thing on her phone.
Oh, yes.
And so we will know where she is. And I purposely don't do it because would I like my mother doing that?
Just because we can doesn't mean you should.
It drives her bonkers. And I reckon, if you start doing this when the child is 6 or 7, you'll probably keep doing it up until they're well in their teens. And that's going to lead to a lot of difficult conversations with kids.
Maybe this is just an extension of the helicopter parenting
That's what I thought.
That's right. Get my app, and it pings me every time.
That is exactly what I thought when I saw it. I thought this need for control of kids and what they're doing and where they are. Look, I've sort of translated across the last few years with my startup and coming out of a paid salary that was reliable into a cash economy. I knew that whatever I had in my wallet for the last 18 months or so, until I've started paying myself a salary now with Squeeze, was what I had in my wallet was what I could spend that week. I think cash is just so underrated, and you've got your money in your pocket, you spend it on mustics at the store, and that's what you've got,
Yeah, but it's.
I reckon the best way.
It's kind of fighting the trend, though, isn't it? I mean, in a few years, I just feel like we just won't be carrying.
I know that is the reality.
Yeah, it's kind of you've kind of got to work out if that's going to be the reality. How do we best approach that? And I think this is basically saying, like, get the kids on the app and understanding how the money coming in and out. There's
certainly some benefit to it, but I like the old approach of saying you've got to do these chores this week, and if you do them, I will give you $10, or whatever. That I think
whether it's bank account or cash.
I mean, if it goes in the bank account, that's well and good, but I still don't like the idea of spying on them and tracking them.
The parenting style, Shane, isn't it? It's quite respectful.
Well, I kind of like that too, because I used to, as I said before, I used to get home from school sometimes and not be that hungry for dinner, and if I was on this, my mum would be able to go, okay, I can see right here. You stopped off for a quarter pounder, and I'm not happy now.
But then it would, anyway, there's two for and against, I think. There was another interesting story on the Squiz today, actually, that we spotted of Sweden saying Vegemite is disgusting. I mean, how dare they?
How very dare they?
You can do a lot worse. worse. In terms of criticising other people's, international delicacies, you can go a lot worse than Vegemite, surely. I'm assuming everyone's a Vegemite fan. I can assume that, right?
I think the Swedes are culturally insensitive here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Vegemite is a staple in my household, and I will have it at least 3 or 4 times a week. And in fact, I was just mentioning outside there that yesterday I was meant to go and see Bega Cheese, and something happened, it didn't work out. But I noticed their street address is Vegemite Way. And I was actually quite excited at the prospect of down there in Port Melbourne. I think it is going to Vegemite Way and seeing Bega Cheese.
That's a life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a picture on the street sign,
Vegemite Street.
You have to reschedule that meeting, Shane.
I'm still trying to, hopefully I'll get to see them. But anyway.
For me, it would be the century egg.
Oh, okay, in terms of horrifying delicacies.
How on earth can people eat that? I don't get that that's actually safe
Chris
to consume.
was talking about that one in the newsroom today, the century egg.
I do really think it's particularly rough to have that next to a nice Vegemite jar that's been produced lovingly in a nice
into
factory.
salty goodness.
Exactly, right. That's rough.
Just keep handling the cupboard.
Yeah.
I don't like how the Dutch eat the herrings
out of the jar.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm not one of those fish type people.
Every nationality has their odd things. You go to China, you'll find yourself eating duck's feet, with the little webbing there, and there's all sorts of things over there.
Yeah.
So.
You just hope that they also talk about the things that we gave the world in terms of food. The snag in the bread, like right there. You're hoping they're holding that up and going, well done, Australia. Yes, we don't like the Vegemite. Well done on the Aussie taco, as we call it.
Pavlova.
Tim Tams.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of great stuff.
We're still out on Pavlova, aren't we? I don't think we can still claim
Tried
that
to
one.
make a comeback recently.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Someone else claimed it, haven't
We're big New Zealand.
New Zealand?
Yeah.
we claim everything that's New Zealand. They've got to get one back
It's
on
another
us.
state.
We can just say that. Yeah, they're one of us.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you very much. All the important money issues of the day and some not so important ones as well. Thank you. That's Taking Stock.